Hello, this is Chris Haskell from They Live by Film. For those that don't know us, Adam, Zach, and we built a podcast over the last 2 years that's a combination of film discussion from 3 very different perspectives, as well as industry interviews with the leaders in boutique Blu-ray and 4K community. We started with Deaf Crocodile, but over time we've been lucky enough to speak with Arrow Video, Severin, Mondo Macabro, Vinegar Syndrome, Radiance, Indicator, most of the OCN partner labels. It's been a blast. You can find us wherever you podcast, and also actually recently as part of Someone's Favorite Production Podcast Network. We hope to see you online.
Hello, this is Aaron West. I am the author of the A24 New Wave. In this book, I look at A24's output and I make the argument that we are in a new wave movement right now. A24 plays a major role. This book has a supplemental podcast where each episode is a brief conversation about an A24 related topic, whether an actor, director, or even a genre. As I continue research for the book and conduct interviews, I expect to record podcast episodes with people involved with the company. You can find the podcast at cinejourneys.com or wherever you find podcasts, and we are proud to be members of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Welcome to the Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw, and I'm joined, as always, not as always, but to be fair,
as often
as she would like, one of the hosts, or the co-host of the Scary Stories We Tell podcast, and the one-season show, Jess Byard.
Hello. Man, I feel like I don't know, how long have we known each other?
About a year and a half.
A year and a half, and we already have, my introduction has already grown 2 podcasts. Mm-hmm. That's pretty amazing.
Welcome to the world of podcasting.
When you get one, you get all.
Yeah, it's true. That's kind of what it feels like. On this episode of the Kulturecast, we're taking a look at a genre that and Jess, can I speak for you and say you have no experience with this genre either?
Very little.
So we're talking about a genre that neither one of us have a whole lot of experience with, but that's okay. Because
we're professional.
Yeah, because A, we're professionals, or at least we play them on podcast, and B, no time like the present to really get into some different kind of film and some different genres. So we are kicking off Sexploitation May, and we will talk about what makes a film. Yeah, Sexploitation Spring. That's a good one. We will be talking about sexploitation undoubtedly throughout this podcast to kind of give you an idea of what sexploitation means. It's not just porno, we promise. But we're kicking off Sexploitation Spring with a look at Russ Meyer's 1968 sexploitation classic, Vixen.
Russ Meyer's Vixen, the story of a girl who loves the joy of being alive and gives herself innocently to the merry chase of life. But like any other game, life has its rules, and if we trespass beyond them, the game can become deadly. There is no stronger bond than the friendship between 2 men. Judd and Niles shared such a bond, a brotherly tie blind to color. And yet, in a moment of violent passion, one led the other to the edge of destruction. Both pushed by Vixen, her frustration nurtured by an empty lack of understanding, a need she sought to fill in the arms of another woman. For to Vixen, the giving of love is an act of nature. Her only weakness, a cancerous evil she was taught. That human beings are to be classified by the color of their skin. An inner sickness that will come close to destroying not only her, but those around her. It will bring them to a moment of truth in an empty sky, with the black man a fulcrum in the deadly teeterboard of life. The hatred inside Vixen fired by yet another hate, the sinister preachings of the communist puppet. Vixen, an adult motion picture experience that is rated X. The management of this theater urges you to see Russ Meyer's Vixen.
So Vixen is written, produced, and directed by Russ Meyer. It stars... I mean, it stars a fair number of folks, but the character you're going to be following through most of the film is Erica Gavin as Vixen Palmer, though there's some other folks. Harrison Page is in there. Garth Pillsbury is in there. They're both playing other characters, but Vixen is played by Erica Gavin, the titular character, titular in
many ways.
Many ways. And this film is, by the way, you can find it on archive.org, which is the Internet Archive. It is there in all of its glory. That's where we found it.
Oh, wow.
Also, it is the first X-rated film we've ever done on the Kulturecast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
I was wondering if you'd ever done any. Well, I figured you hadn't done sexploitation, but blaxploitation, yes. Have you done any other of the exploitations?
Ozploitation we did last year for Mike White March was Ozploitation, which we could have done an entire year on Ozploitation because those films are a riot.
Did you do Wake and Fright?
So we did Ozploitation, but we did not do the film that you're talking about.
Wake and Fright. Oh man, we're gonna have to do that movie. We're gonna have to do an Ozploitation part 2.
Return to Ozploitation.
Yes, Return to Down Under.
Yeah. Boy, that's all they do in this entire movie.
That should be on this month.
Yeah. Good Lord.
Well, for me, Sexploitation is not one that I am super versed in. I have seen a couple of Russ Meyer movies other than this. I had not seen this movie prior to the podcast. This was my first viewing. But I have seen Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, and I've seen Faster Pussycat Kill Kill. Which I like, and both of those movies are a riot. I enjoy them. So Vixen is also, we'll get there. But to finish off my thought on my experience with exploitation subgenres, mostly I am familiar with the horror side of exploitation, so that tends to fall under the 70s cannibal movies, so Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Ferox, Make Them Die Slowly, which I believe is also Cannibal Ferox. I might be wrong on that.
Did you mention Cannibal Holocaust?
Yes. Yeah, Cannibal Holocaust.
Which is almost sexploitation in a way.
Well, I mean, so that's the thing with a lot of... In every subgenre...
You see the other genres commingling.
Well, except for this one. I think it's a very interesting... No, I think that...
No, you're 100% right.
I think that it's kind of hilarious because as I was watching this, like I said, I'm more familiar with the darker form of exploitation. So Nazi-sploitation, nun-sploitation, cannibals. There's a lot of stuff. And, even the rape revenge movies, which are also, a genre of exploitation movie. And because I'm so used to watching that, as I was watching this, I kept waiting for something really awful to happen to her.
Me too, 100%.
Every single time. But the thing about sexploitation, at least with this movie, and I may be wrong, but we'll find out throughout this month, this movie is sexploitation is just literally just the sex scenes without any of the scariness in any other exploitation genre. Because at so many points in this movie, I thought well, okay, they're gonna totally rape her at this point, it's this movie goes in weird places, and Vixen herself is a very weird main character. I can't call her a protagonist. I guess she's I can't even call her an anti-hero. I don't know. She's really just not a fantastic person, but we follow her around for 70 minutes. Which also, yay, 70 minutes. I do love the shortness of the genre.
A quick and breezy 70 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's no plot.
Well, okay.
Until the last 10 minutes.
Yeah, so, look.
That extra 10 minutes to make it longer than an hour.
Exactly. So, look, sexploitation came out of the obscenity Roth versus United States rulings of the late 50s, where they said that sex and obscenity were not synonymous. So that is where sexploitation comes out of, is them creating these films that are X-rated. This is the MPAA's, this is one of the first films to receive an X rating. The MPAA formed the X rating for films like this. The funny thing about this movie, right? So there's three camps of sexploitation. There's nudie cuties, there's nudist camp films, and then there's the quote-unquote foreign films. And these all played at grindhouses. It's the thing about this film, and this film specifically, is like you said, it has no plot.
It's effectively just a scenario. It's just a day in a life of this lady, Vixen Palmer. Yes, that's her name. Who's married to a pilot who's like a guide and takes people, out into the bush. And
he's a bush jockey, Jess.
He sure is. Everybody is in this movie.
Jesus, aren't they? Even her fucking... Oh, my God. There's incest in this movie.
So, yeah, when I texted you and I said, what the hell am I watching? You said basically porn. And I said, well, that I expected. But what I wasn't expecting was the aggressive racism and incest.
Well, the racism in the film, it feels like... And it kind of skews towards this at the end of the film. The racism ends up being somewhat not satirical, but they're using it as a means to an end with one of the quote-unquote plots.
Yeah, it does matter. Yeah, in a very loose plot. Basically, this entire movie, there's, 4 or 5 people. Vixen is married to this guy. He's... Basically, a new couple comes to town, and they're having marital problems and where they're not sleeping with each other. And Vixen is entirely insatiable, can't get enough, has to have sex with anybody, anytime, anywhere. Sleeps with the husband, sleeps with the wife, fixes their marriage, which is essentially arguably what Frankenfurter does in Rocky Horror.
Sure. I would agree.
Which this movie came out in, 68? 67? Yeah.
68.
So a couple of years before Rocky. She just wanders around having sex with everybody. And in the interim, she keeps running into these 2 guys in her house who one is her brother, her younger brother, and the other one is his friend who is an African-American man. And Vixen is both...
An abhorrent racist.
It's an abhorrent racist and trying to sleep with her brother all at the same time. So
I don't know if she's trying to sleep with her brother. I think she's just trying to sleep with anyone.
Well, I kind of get it's almost a Cruel Intentions thing, except that they're not step siblings, which would make it just slightly better.
I've never seen Cruel Intentions, so I'm
right over my
head.
That's not a good movie, but we should definitely do a podcast on it.
I mean, the thing that's weird about this movie is you have this character that you're following that I don't think you're meant to sympathize with the character.
No.
I'm not sure what the character's motivation is other than she needs to fuck. I mean,
Here's the thing. Russ Meyer's motivation is boobs, and that's what we get.
And that's exactly it. I mean, Erica Gavin is a stunningly good-looking woman. She's
got kind of an Amy Winehouse thing going on, like early Amy Winehouse.
She has very large breasts, and that's why Russ Meyer cast her. She was a dancer at the time when she was cast in this film, and she showed up. She answered an advertisement seeking actors for this film. But I mean, she has a very large breast. She's very good looking.
Bod.
Yeah, she's very good looking. Everyone in this film is very good looking. And that's kind of where...
I will argue you on that wife lady who's just really kind of obnoxious the whole time.
Which one? Oh, the couple, the first couple that comes in?
Yes, the sex-deprived wife.
I mean, to be fair, though, anyone who uses the phrase, can I use your crotch as a pillow is...
Can I use your lap as a pillow?
Oh, man. Gotta use that one. That's a pretty good one. But it's, what's weird is you would expect, I expected... the main character to be not sympathetic, but meant to empathize with her, and she is just a terrible human being.
It's weird because it's sort of like, it's a sort of almost a morality lesson, which is weird.
I would say it verges on it at times.
Because for 60 minutes of the movie, she's running around sleeping with everybody. That's basically what's happening. But the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie, we're introduced to... these other characters one who's an Irishman. And we should also say that this movie is set in Canada. It's set in Canada. It is not a USA film, which is really weird because then there's a moment in Vixen's aggressive racism when she tells I can't remember what his name is.
Rufus?
It's not Rufus though. That's just what she calls
Miles.
him. Yes, Miles. Yeah, she's in the kitchen with Miles, and she tells him basically to go back to his own country, but I had forgotten that this movie was set in Canada, so me being a stupid American was just assuming that it was set in America.
I mean, even though the film literally opens with it being like, this is the Canadian bush.
Oh, yeah, royal, like, music, and which that's the other thing, a sidebar about this movie. The score is very interesting. It's really jaunty. And at the beginning, it's this big, like, kind of royal orchestra.
The film almost opens as, like, one of those late 60s, early 70s, like, educational videos. This is a Canadian bush pilot. He takes people into the Canadian bush for hunting and fishing. And it's like, wait, what? I thought this was a movie about... Again, I didn't know what to expect, to be perfectly honest with you. This is the first sexploitation film I've ever seen. It seems like... And this is just for this one. I mean, this is the first one, unlike Blaxploitation Month, where I didn't skip ahead this month yet. It seems to me, like you said, that it's a lot of soft core pornography. And no plot. It's just a vehicle to show breasts and ass and some bush, some.
Specifically, we should mention, they're varying. Sexploitation is interesting as a subgenre because it has very pronounced, names that came out of it. So Russ Meyer is obviously a big one. And Russ Meyer is, if you're going to watch a Russ Meyer movie, you're going to see a lot of topless ladies with huge breasts. That's what he's looking for. But then you have directors like Doris Wishman, who I've actually, unfortunately, not seen her films, but she is basically the first, definitely first American film director, screenwriter, producer that was female doing, sexploitation movies in the 60s. I think as you go along and you're looking at different directors, it'll be interesting to see kind of what their go-tos were. Obviously, Russ Meyer is going to have a lot of big-breasted women. That's what he's going to have.
And he does. And Erica Gavin fills that.
And like you said, this is
they fill that slot perfectly, but she does the bare minimum of acting. She looks good throughout the entire film, and undoubtedly anyone who watches the film walks away with the notion of she'd probably be a lot of fun to hang out with.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
Yeah.
Very much so, yes.
And aside from her racism.
Well, okay.
That's a real big problem. Except for the fact that she needs to get over it. That is, so, again, we'll finish this loose plot here. But the end of this movie, last 10 minutes, turns out the Irishman is, so there's a good 2-minute or 3-minute scene where the Irishman talks to Miles about socialism communism and being a communist. And I can't tell you why it's there. It's just a weird attempt to have some kind of meaningful plot. But eventually he,
makes a statement in a movie with boobies.
Right.
And a movie where a woman fucks her own brother, and not in a stepbrother, stepsister kind of way, like he's her brother, she's his sister, they fuck.
Yep. That's a thing that happens. Yeah. But so Irishman hijacks this plane and Miles saves the day, which effectively cures Vixen of her racism, I guess.
Theoretically?
Yeah, it ends on a smile and then ends the end. Now, I know there are 2 more Vixen movies, but I have not seen them, so I don't know if they actually follow with Vixen herself or if it's just 2 other movies under that umbrella.
They do not. This is the only Vixen film with Erica Gavin, who plays Vixen in this film.
Gotcha.
I mean, look, but ultimately with this film, I did like it.
Oh yeah, I liked it too. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean,
That's the thing. Like, isn't that the measuring stick by which we need to approach these movies moving forward? Was it fun?
Yes, and I think that's a big thing with exploitation, and specifically sexploitation. Like, was it fun and was it sexy? And I would argue that this movie as a whole is, like, it's not a super sexy movie, but it's also not a gross movie. Like, I've seen,
Brother
again,
fucking
like,
is not sexy, period, the end.
No, that's pretty gross. That's terrible. But there are other, scenes in this movie that are actually handled pretty decently, and for, softcore, that's what they are. You're not seeing anything hardcore, and you're certainly not seeing any full frontal male nudity, God forbid.
Well, you barely see any female nudity from the waist down.
Right.
I would actually, I don't think we see any.
I don't think we do either. I think it's purely just waist up, for women.
Which in and of itself is rather humorous, considering how
it is. It's very coy and kind of cheeky. Like, there's a playfulness to Russ Meyer's movies, and especially this one.
Well, like, this film wouldn't be rated X in 2020.
No, I mean, it would be rated like R.
Yeah, I mean,
just for the subject matter, but
there's breasts, but like, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, so the racism is pretty bad, because all throughout this movie, she's calling Miles a myriad of old, antiquated, horribly racist terms, but they always are skirting around the big one that, the big one, until the very end when the Irishman calls him that word, and that's when Miles kind of goes over and saves the day. So it's also...
He goads him into saying it because he knows he wants to.
Yeah, and I think, it is kind of weird that Russ Meyer... Maybe not weird, but I think this is just kind of, Russ Meyer just wants to tell a fun sex movie. Like, that's what he wants to do, but he probably had a little pressure on him to try and make something a little bit more meaningful and, stamp some half-assed lesson or moral or whatever on the end of it. But I mean, I didn't mind it. Like, I think that I think about exploitation, especially sexploitation, it's a surreal thing.
Right.
There's a surreal reason, like, the idea of watching these movies, because they aren't porn necessarily. Like, yes, they would have been played on, 42nd Street and in porn theaters and in grindhouse theaters.
It's softcore. It's softcore, but it's softcore, but like, I've seen, I mean, look, let's not kid ourselves. Look, because I think we have to address this at some point this month. Look, I, like everyone else, watch pornography, and right. I have seen my fair share of porn. And this is even soft for softcore porn. Like, in softcore porn, they show bush. I mean, this is just breasts. And like, but I think what, to your point, it's like the things that maybe push this movie in the direction of it being more is not the nudity. It's the racism and the taboo. I mean, Jesus Christ, there's incest in this movie. Tell me a Hollywood movie where you get full-on incest. Yeah,
there's, like, the racism and the incest. Like, those are the darkest places this movie goes. And those, obviously are pretty...
do incest in pornography. I mean, if you go on Pornhub right now, because now it's a big joke. I mean, the joke on Pornhub now is like, you fuck your stepsister. Oh, stepbrother, I got stuck in the laundry machine or something like that. Even those videos don't do actual quote-unquote fictional incest. It's always stepbrother and stepsister, which this film just goes for it. It doesn't even pretend it's their stepbrother and stepsister, which is odd in a way, but at the same time, that really feels like the exploitation angle. It's really pushing.
Agreed.
It's pushing really hard.
I think that's what it is, and I would love to, like, I'm sure they're out there. I haven't seen any Russ Meyer documentaries, but I don't know what Russ Meyer's kind of like his writing process was, or any rhyme or reason to his scripts. Like, I would love to see or to hear what those decisions were. Like, okay, we're going to do this 60 minutes of this lady, and she's going to sleep with her husband, and then she's going to sleep with that lady's husband, and then she's going to sleep with that lady, and then she's going to sleep with somebody else. But then all of a sudden we need to throw on 20 minutes of a cautionary tale against communism.
I guess.
I don't know. It's weird. It's fun. I mean, exploitation is, I love this era. I love the 60s and 70s, and I've talked about it on many podcasts before. Just that you could do whatever the fuck you wanted.
Really? They have incest.
Like, you can do
they have
anything.
Just casual racism.
I mean, just the ability to make sexploitation movies and have them shown in a theater. Like,
that's the thing.
It's insane.
That's the thing that we've kind of touched on it is, in 2020, this film could never come out to theaters.
Oh, God, no.
It would just be considered softcore pornography and released through the channels with which softcore pornography comes out. And look, I don't know how softcore pornography comes out. We all know how hardcore pornography comes out. It comes out on these companies' websites. Then some unwitting asshole with a subscription downloads the videos and then uploads them to torrents, and then they go on Pornhub for everyone to enjoy, because pornography for the masses is okay by me. But softcore porn, I don't know through what channels those movies are released.
I mean, like, when I was growing up, there was always, like, the channel. I think MTV was one of them, but there would be another channel late at night that, like, after 10 o'clock, there was, like, these sexy shows where it was just,
Cinemax got the name Skinemax.
Well, yeah. And and it was always just, like, a lot of, like, hot and heavy breathing and things like that, and boobs, yeah.
But, like, it's weird,
I don't even think that's on TV now. I don't know where
the envelope has
like
been
you said,
it's been pushed.
It would come out in a niche genre streaming, and I mean, especially something like this, which isn't. It's not a sexy movie. Like, you're not going to watch this movie to get in the mood. Like, this is a fun movie. This is a whole, it's. So, yeah, it wouldn't be considered, like, even porn, you know what I mean? Like, for for all intents and purposes.
In the mood, like, there are better movies.
Yeah, there's...
Look, I watched this movie while I was working out this afternoon. Like, yeah,
I watched this movie while I was, like, planning a schedule.
Yeah, like, I mean, this movie did not do anything for either of us. And I think in 2020 that says something about humanity as a whole and what we consider quote unquote sexy or kind of engine, rearing. But, like, it's sexploitation. Of all the exploitation genres that I have watched, sexploitation feels like the most outdated just immediately from the first one that I've seen. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I don't know.
Not like in a bad way, but, like, it just feels like a product of its time.
Watch Gestapo's Last Orgy and then get back to me.
Gestapo's Last Orgy.
Not a sexploitation film.
but you know what I mean, right? Like,
yeah, I know what you mean. Like,
blaxploitation has aged, but, like, sexploitation where, like, a pair of large breasts were pushing the envelope.
Blaxploitation's also been brought into the modern era in various capacities. With Black Dynamite, Jackie Brown. Like, Samurai Jack.
As you would think. Undercover Brother, is that what you're trying?
Yeah, Undercover Brother.
Like, tell me a sexploitation film that came out in the 2020s or, like, in the last 20 years. Like, it's weird because we had this conversation on our last podcast about blaxploitation where I posited the question, where are the blaxploitation films of the late 90s, 2000s? And there's, like, a handful. Pootie Tang, Undercover Brother, Jackie Brown. These films are all made by white people.
Don't be a Madison.
Yeah, that's just an amazing
film. That's
not. That's just a good movie. But, like, sexploitation now, it doesn't have representation at all.
I don't know. I think that sexploitation is kind of it's just evolved kind of into raunchy comedy. Things like,
I guess, right? I mean, because, like, you've essentially
things that are just overly sex fueled, like American Pie and The Hangover and shit like that, or 40-year-old where everything's very hyper sex. I think that it's what gets close enough for in today's era, because it's kind of. It was either focusing on teen. I mean, look at, like, teen movies of,
I agree. Like, Not Another Teen Movie.
The late 90s and early 2000s, where it's like,
I agree.
Yeah, you're not seeing anything at all happening really, but they're all about having sex. That's all it is. It's, we need to get laid by the end of this movie. How do we do it? fucking Euro trip. Like, that's...
Well, I mean, and look, I think I've gone on record before, and I'll say it again. I think Eurotrip Eurotrip hit me at the right point in my life growing up that, like, it made an impression on me. And, you know.
Yeah, no, I love that movie.
Yeah, it's a fucking great, like, and I think you're 100% on point with saying that, like, those, like, teen comedies of you could even make the case of, like, the 70s, like the late 70s to now, they really owe a lot to sexploitation films.
Yeah, getting that, putting that out there, putting that on screen, making that a goal for a character that's, something that's as purely, base instinct as sex, and making that your character's sole goal, and then also making that character, and I think that's a big reason, maybe this is something we haven't really touched on, and when the programmer of this month comes on, Heather Drain, I think she'll probably want to, mention this a bit, but look at teen comedies of the 90s and 2000s. Most of those lead characters are male, or really, mousy, nerdy girls, but having... in 1968 and, other sexploitation movies that came out in the same era are very, female-led. This whole movie is centered around one woman,
She's
Vixen.
the master of her own destiny in this film.
Yeah, she does whatever she wants. Does this movie pass the Bechdel test? I don't know. I don't think so. Well, you know what? It might. I don't know. I'd have to watch it again. But regardless, I think that, sexploitation, you look at people like Doris Wishman, and it was a huge movement for women's empowerment, especially in the late 60s and early 70s and during the sexual revolution. You're seeing these women who are, gorgeous and of all sizes, all shapes and sizes, out on these screens, being the master, like you said, the master of their domain. They're the ones going out and getting what they want, and that happens to be sex.
We didn't even talk about the what I would consider more than likely at the time, and still in some respects, the lesbian sex scene in this film.
Yes,
I think that right there, that is the Bechdel test. Like, that's how it moves through.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I don't know if it entirely counts because she's not...
She's talking about how, like, it's pleasing the man, right?
Right. And in order to pass the Bechdel test, it has to be two women talking about something other than a man.
Well, they're talking about how different a woman's body is when they're with them.
True.
I don't know. I mean, look, I think for me, I find it mildly amusing that in this film they really are like, oh my God, we shouldn't be feeling this way towards each other. It's like, phew.
Yeah, I mean,
in this film of all films, really?
Exploitative. Well, I mean, I think that, the lesbian sex scene, as with lesbian sex scenes in a lot of movies, verge on the exploitative.
Right, I agree.
They're the exploitative thing, right? They're the exploitative draw. And, you take 90s, take the teen movies again, where it's always like, oh, kiss, like to, two girls or whatever. So, yeah, I think that's definitely, you can, it's fun to watch sexploitation movies because you can just learn, what the director's fetishes are, because clearly Russ Meyer is a thing he's clearly a tit man. And he obviously is a big fan of lesbian sex scenes because that was the one that he probably took the most time on.
Yes, and the one that he put all of his effort into.
Yeah, it's the longest scene, I believe. It's the longest sex scene. It has the most angles.
Yeah, it's an interesting movie. That scene, I think, is the scene that stands out to me the most throughout the entire. Wow. Okay, calm down. But I think for me, that scene stands out the most. I said stands out, not stands up, for fuck's sake. All right, calm down.
I think that, to your point on that scene, though, that scene ends in a pretty comedic way. Like, that they finish and Vixen is leaving the room as the woman's husband is coming back, and he's like, oh, are you here for me? And she's like, nope, your wife's next. It just keeps on going. And then they bang, and that was she pretty much fixed their marriage by having sex with both of them. Like, for the bad that she's doing in this movie, she's doing some good as well.
Doing a lot of good. I mean, other than the racism, she's an okay character.
Other than the racism and the incest, yes.
Well, I don't judge. If people want to do that shit in their own home, be my guest. I mean, like, if it's illegal, that's one thing. But, like, this is fictional fucking incest. So you want to have at it, be my fucking guest. You're not actual brother and sister, so. Right. The incest and the lesbian scene are the two things in the film that, like, stand out as, like, probably in 68. Yeah, they were pushing the envelope. They were really going for it in a way that made this film worthy of the X rating. Because, in 2020, if you look at this film, it's pretty mediocre from, like, a sexiness standpoint.
Right, yeah. It's very fun. Like I said, this movie's fun. It is funny, too. Like, it does have some pretty comedic moments. I actually, I like... I like her. I think that she does have some good timing.
I would agree.
And, she's not like the world's best actress, and she obviously didn't go on to become like, a huge serious actor. But for this role, she provides that realness to it that comes from what her background was before she came into this movie. And like I said, it's just fun. It's cheeky, it's funny, it's playful. It's, got a lot of sex, obviously, a lot of nudity, and it doesn't take a lot of time. It does what it needs to do, and it's done.
So what would you give the film out of 5?
I mean, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think it's
not much of a movie plot-wise, story-wise, but, I appreciate it for what it, I appreciate the genre for the genre. I appreciate it, opening doors to everything that they would open doors to. And I think Russ Meyer is a fun director.
Yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. I mean, again, there's not much to it, but I think that that's A, probably intentional, and B, that's also indicative of the genre as a whole. And I'm okay with it, and this is the first venture down the road of sexploitation, and I'm excited to see where the rest of the month goes. So yeah, I would give it a 3. I mean, look, if you're getting into this looking for some sort of grand experiment in unique and exciting storytelling, like, this is not it. But if you want a pair of boobs and some interesting things, this is, right there. It doesn't make any excuses for what it is. Let's put it that way. Which I think a lot of films really could. I think a lot of films could learn from a film like this. Like, you don't need to be more than you are. Like, it's okay to just be this.
Own it.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, let's take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast. So, on the next Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about another sexploitation film. We're going to be talking about She Mob, which is about lesbians. So, great. No. I mean, I know zero about any of these movies. I know pretty much all of them are on archive.org, so if you want to go check them out along with us through the month, archive.org is where you can find them. That is the Internet Wayback Machine. So, because someone needs to be chronicling the Internet for everyone, and I guess archive.org has taken it upon themselves to do so. Until then, where can people find you, Jess?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at writer Jess Byard. If you want to hear Chris and I talk about spooky things, you can hear us both at Scary Stories We Tell podcast, which comes out every week on Wednesdays. We talk about true crime, the unexplained, horror culture, all that fun stuff. And you can also find us on our other show, the One Season Show, where we talk about television shows that lasted only one season. And I believe we just finished our second season. Did that last episode go up? All right.
We did.
So you can check out our first 2 seasons, which were 1980-something's Werewolf and 2000-something's Kitchen Confidential.
Both of which are shows that only lasted one season for a reason.
Yep.
Especially Werewolf. That show is bad. Very bad. As for myself, you can find me on Twitter, casualty_Chris. That's where I talk about most of the things that I do. I just normally retweet it because I'm probably too busy actually working on the thing than to actually use social media. Who'd have thunk it? As for the podcast, patreon.com/Kulturecast is where you can find Patreon for us. Kulturecast.com is where you can find the RSS feed for this podcast. Subscribe, give us a rating on iTunes. Got more ratings on iTunes, so I'll take it. 5-star review or 1-star review. Either way, I'm going to read them, and I mean, whatever. Your opinion is your opinion, and it's not mine, so that's what makes it fun about having, opinion about other people's stuff. As always, big thanks to Jess for joining me, for sitting through this movie. We'll catch you on the next episode.